Part 49. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 519. ID Con 1686161. Grandet's long-term rule in Magic Valley City is based on the security army. These law and order troops not only spent an astonishing amount of wealth, but also ensured that Grandet was firmly seated as the mayor of the Devil's Valley and held the military and political power. Now that the security forces have suffered such losses, Grandet is miserable. The main fleet was wiped out, and another elite army was lost. How could this happen? My security army fleet could actually. Grandet, who collapsed on his chair, finally managed to say a word. The previous battle destroyed Grandet's years of hard work, which made him an incredible blow. At this time, Chief Razel and several senior officers of the security forces looked at him with very ugly expressions. The cotters of the four major industries are also here. Grandet felt like the sky was falling this time. He spent so much painstaking efforts and money to build a powerful security force fleet, but it was wiped out in just one day. Grandet is not afraid of anything but losing money and power. The security forces are equivalent to the pillars of the two. The blow Grandet received this time is unprecedented. If the security force fleet no longer exists, then the overall strategic situation with the Saruyama allied forces will undergo a fundamental reversal. At this time, a senior officer of the security force stepped forward and said to Grandet, who was already extremely dejected, "Mayor Grandet, please don't be like this. The matter has come to an end, so we have to quickly rectify our troops and start over again strategic deployment." Grandet raised his head and looked at the senior officer. This is a burly and tall middle-aged man, his face is full of resolute muscles, and his eyes are piercing. "General Durham. We are now facing an unprecedented crisis. You are fully responsible for the remaining forces of the security forces. From now on, you are the commander-in-chief of the security forces," Grandet said to the senior officer. General Durham saluted with his legs together and his right arm. "Yes, Mayor Grandet. At this critical moment, I will live up to everyone's expectations," General Durham said. Grandet then moved his gaze away from General Durham. He said to everyone, "Okay, I want to stay by myself for a while now. You all go down first. The affairs of the army are already under the full responsibility of General Du Lun, you can just find him." Grandet is in a very complicated mood now, and under such circumstances, it is the best decision to hand over the power of the army to General Durham, the number 2 figure in the army. As for the rest, Grandet just wanted to be quiet for a while. "Your subordinate will retire, Mayor Grandet," General Du Lun said respectfully. The sturdy, burly man walked out from the office door. The security force officers also subsequently resigned. "We have also stepped down. Mayor Grandet." The 4 major industrial cotters, including the president of Grandet Bank, also left. Grandet was lying on the chair alone, looking out of the office window again. The starry sky at night was also exceptionally clear, and the sky was full of stars. There is no wind or rain outside. But Grandet's heart is like dead silence. After the night, it was morning again. In the waters near Gaia Island, the offshore dock Saracen Union welcomed the bright sunshine again. However, for the people on this offshore dock, the war against Grandet's forces has ushered in a new situation. In the restaurant inside the sea dock. Here, the crew came here to have breakfast in batches. Of course, there is no doubt that the breakfast here is still cooked by the chefs led by Sanji. The breakfast was still full of octopus. Even the carnival at last night's banquet couldn't consume so much octopus meat. However, the giant flying fish had less meat and was basically eaten up. Sanji and the chefs made many sandwiches with octopus meat, served with pastries and fruits for breakfast. Even these simple breakfasts are enough to keep anyone dining here motivated. Rog and Usopp, Nami, and Chopper all had breakfast here. Mont Blanc Kulak and the apes and orangutans also had breakfast here together. After breakfast, Roger and Usopp followed Mont Blanc Kulik to the captain's office here. In Mont Blanc Kulik's office, everyone was sitting on the sofa discussing future plans. Mont Blanc Kulik said to everyone, "Everyone, now we are facing a new war situation. The main warships of the security forces fleet were annihilated, which made it impossible for the security forces to dominate the sea around Gaia Island anymore. In the past, we were only able to use the sea docks and the Victory, Hunter and Newton probe to conduct guerrilla warfare. That is precisely because the enemy's fleet is too strong. Now that the fleet of the security forces has been wiped out, then we can make full use of the sea come to take the initiative to attack the enemy. Now we have fully grasped the initiative of the war." Mont Blanc Kulik's high-spirited words inspired everyone present. Of course, this is also true, and now the Apayama United Army has gained a decisive initiative. After so many years, we finally got the initiative. It's really unexpected, and it finally came true, the orangutan said. "Okay, take the initiative to attack and beat them to death. Justice must prevail," the ape said excitedly. Mont Blanc Kulik continued, "Although this is the case, there are still strong remnants of the security forces. Our ultimate goal is to overthrow Grandet's rule. Then we still have to try to launch a battle in Magic Valley City. To completely defeat the security forces. It would be great if Grandet could be captured alive." "Capture Grandet alive," Sanji said. Mont Blanc Kulik continued, "Yes, we are going to launch a battle against Magic Valley City. A group of people will need to sneak in to capture Grandet. In addition, the maritime dock will launch a surprise attack on the port area to contain the main force of the enemy. At the same time, it attracts attention. This is the battle plan we will carry out in the future." After hearing Mont Blanc Kulik's battle plan, everyone praised him again and again. Rog looked at Mont Blanc Kulik and said, "A very good battle plan. Then we need a team to enter Magic Valley City first." Mont Blanc Kulik nodded and said, "Yes. So we need a team of people to go." After thinking about it, Usopp said, "Look, this latent work can be said to be very important." Luffy said, "Okay, let's go." Nami punched Luffy on the head and said, "Don't forget that you are wanted. They already know what you look like through the wanted notice." The wanted orders of Rog, Luffy, Sanji and Sauron have long been remembered by the security forces. So once exposed, it must be extremely dangerous. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 520. ID Con 16866162. Mont Blanc Kulik said, "Now the Magic Valley City must be defended like an iron barrel. If we attack rashly, it will definitely be dangerous. So if we really want to sneak in, we need to pretend to be a businessman." Luffy said, "Okay then, let's pretend to be businessmen." Mont Blanc Kulik continued, "This requires some preparation. But who of us is willing to go?" Luffy was the first to say, "I do." Sanji also said, "How come such things happen so rarely to me?" If Luffy is a reckless person who only rushes forward when things happen, then Sanji is very good at strategy. Rog said, "I'll go too." Usopp saw that there was a rhythm of dispatching all the masters present, and he quickly looked at Sauron in fear. "Sauron, you'd better not go," Usopp said expectantly. Zoro glanced at him and said naturally, "I still need some time to strengthen my self-training. I don't have time to go messing around in that city." After getting the sentence, Usopp can be said to have breathed a sigh of relief. Although those who refuse to go can stay at the sea dock, but there is no guarantee that they will not encounter any danger here. So at least there are experts like Sauron left behind. And if the masters all attack, it will appear how cowardly Usopp is. At that time, the reputation of Captain Usopp will not be discredited. King of Ninja and others don't seem to have any plans to go either. But at this time Robin said something, "I want to take a look." Everyone else looked at Robin, although this woman with deep eyes was hard to see through. But the strength that Robin had shown before was beyond words. Robin's ability to create arms is powerful enough to overwhelm countless enemies. And this mysterious woman seems to have an ability to see everything. Sanji looked at Robin and said, as expected of Miss Robin, you are so brave. Don't worry, the knight will protect you all the way. Robin's face was calm, always with that calm and confident expression. Is there anyone else? Rog said. Luffy looked at Usopp and said, Usopp, let's go. Usopp trembled all over, steadied himself, coughed and said, this is not possible, what if I leave here? Captain Usopp needs to stay here and lead everyone fight bravely. Nami looked at Usopp helplessly. I thought that if I didn't have that ability, I would always brag. Sanji said, then it's settled. I also have Rog, Luffy and Miss Robin, and the four of us infiltrated into the city of Magic Valley together. Mont Blanc Kulik looked at Sanji and the others and said, this is really a dangerous operation. You must take care. The infiltration team consisting of Roger, Sanji, Robin, and Luffy is finalized. The strength of the four is good, and the small number is conducive to action. Mont Blanc Kulik continued, since it is such an important operation, we need to find the best time. And we must be fully prepared. After the infiltration team goes to Magic Valley City, the Sea Dock should also prepare for battle. At that time, we will attack the port of Magic Valley City. After some discussions, the battle plan was finalized. At this time, the orangutan suddenly felt distressed. That's right, but we are still facing a very troublesome problem. That is, Bellamy and the others may participate, the orangutan said worriedly. It's true, we have to consider this issue, the orangutan also frowned. Mont Blanc Kulik also had a serious face, and said, this is also the biggest problem. We still have some troubles in dealing with Grandet. The most fearful thing is that Bellamy will intervene. Sanji looked at him and asked, is it true that Bellamy is so scary? Mont Blanc Kulik said, Bellamy's strength is very strong. Although I believe in everyone's courage and strength, we must beware of him. Otherwise we will face several times the pressure. So everyone must be careful. I further tell me about Bellamy. Everyone present listened carefully. Mont Blanc Kulik continued, Bellamy and his pirate group have been entrenched on Gaia Island all year round. They use this as their base. However, Grandet has a great relationship with them. Bellamy is in Grandet, he has a large share in the major industries. In Magic Valley City, he can be said to be the second richest person after Grandet. On a small island near Gaia Island, the Bellamy pirates, the fleet has been dormant there. Fleet, Usopp said in shock. Yes, the Bellamy pirates have a fleet. It is a powerful fleet with a super heavy warship as the core, plus 4 heavy warship escorts, and a heavy submarine. And the weapons of these 6 warships, they are all amazingly advanced. Because these warships are specially made from the military factory of Dressrosa, the world's largest military power. The reason why Bellamy owns these warships is because it is said that he is the owner of Dressrosa. That's why Don Quixote da Flamingo, one of the king's Shishibukai, is a subordinate. These 6 advanced warships are equipped with weapons that far exceed those of the security army warships. So it is very troublesome. This is not all, it is even worse. What matters most is the strength of Bellamy and his few confidants, Mont Blanc Kulik said earnestly. Usopp's face changed when he heard that. Mont Blanc Kulik seemed to have a fearful expression on his face. He recalled, Bellamy himself can defeat heavy warships. He can even rival thousands of troops. Several of his generals are also very strong. Once Bellamy Rami joins the fight, then we're going to face a very grim situation. Usopp and Chopper looked at each other and said, it's scary. Although Roger and Sanji looked calm, they both felt compelled to pay attention to Bellamy after hearing Mont Blanc Kulik's words. Rog asked Mont Blanc Kulik, then the probability of Bellamy taking action is very high. Montblanc-Kulik said, however, due to some circumstances, Grandet is unwilling to let Bellamy intervene in the specific affairs of the Magic Valley City too much. He just gave Bellamy a huge fortune. Therefore, Grandet does not ask for help, or Bellamy he didn't notice that if Grandet was going to be destroyed, he wouldn't take it lightly. The last time the former owner of this offshore dock let Bellamy take action because Grandet asked for help. And Bellamy is a pirate after all, although Longtai does all kinds of evil, he still needs to face the world government officially. So he usually only gives Bellamy wealth, but does not allow him to easily intervene in the specific affairs of Magic Valley City. Of course, Bellamy is also living a very happy life. After he got a huge amount of wealth, he wandered around everywhere, and his whereabouts were uncertain. Of course, no one from the outside world has inquired about his specific whereabouts. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 521. ID Con 1686923. Sanji asked again, so the navy doesn't exist in this area? Montblanc-Kulik said, the navy near Gaia Island is originally weak. Because of the rise of revolutionary armies in the world in recent years, the navy has been transferred to distant places to suppress the revolutionary armies. Moreover, Grandet has long been worried about the navy, and all those who want to Fafa declared on his own that he would maintain shipping safety near Gaia Island. The world government officials were corrupted by him, so they did not continue to send decent military and political forces. In fact, there is nothing surprising about this. A serious civil war broke out in a big country the size of Alabasta, and the world government was helpless. Not to mention Gaia Island here. The world government that has been in operation for more than 800 years is extremely corrupt and rigid, and cannot effectively deal with many things. Coupled with the threat of the revolutionary army, they have even neglected the governance of some places. Montblanc-Kulik continued, this is just to remind everyone to pay attention. But our chances are still very good. So Bellamy is not sure to intervene. But everyone be careful. After everyone heard this, their determination became even firmer. Especially Rog, Sanji, Robin, and Luffy, who are about to enter Demon Valley City to lurk. Don't worry, we will be careful, Rog said. No problem. I'll keep an eye out, Sanji said. Collect more information from all parties, Robin said. Shoot them away, Luffy said. Montblanc-Kulik said, everyone must pay attention. I wish us victory. After the decision, everyone began to work hard to prepare. Although the offshore dock was repaired urgently yesterday, it still needs more careful restoration. After deciding to fight that day, everyone began to vigorously repair. At the same time organize various combat materials. The apes led the crew to take victory. The hunter departed from the sea dock to catch more seafood as supplies. Zoro, the king of ninjas, and Nami also traveled together to help catch seafood. The orangutan led the crew to leave the sea dock on the Yutan probe, and went to the shipping route related to Gaia Island to inquire about various information. Sanji and Roger and Robin and Luffy are traveling together. The 4 accompanying people on the Yutan exploration are also planning to stop by once they find a suitable merchant ship. Usopp, Chopper, the goddess of spring, and Montblanc-Kulik stayed at the sea dock together with many crew members to strengthen the sea dock. This action lasted several days. In Magic Valley City on Gaia Island. Since General Durham took over as the new commander-in-chief of the security forces, he quickly reorganized the security forces. First, quickly count the strength of the security forces. Originally, the Second Army was completely destroyed, and most of the Third Army was lost. General Du Lun organized the officers and soldiers of the Third Army who were still able to fight into the Fourth Army. Now the security forces are left with the 1st Army, the 4th Army and the 5th Army. These three legions still have nearly troops. All the main warships of the security force fleet were destroyed, but there were still 6 supply ships left. And 80 patrol boats. These supply ships and patrol boats are naturally difficult to fight, but they can serve as patrols and guards. In order to resist the possible attack of the Ape Mountain United Army, General Duran ordered the remaining 3 legions of the security forces to build fortifications and strengthen the construction of forts on the coast near the port. Although the security forces have become passive in the situation, they can still build strong defenses by building fortifications. On a hill near the south of Magic Valley City, General Du Lun was here to observe the situation of the defense construction here. From here, General Durham and the accompanying senior officers could clearly see that the fortifications around Magic Valley City were being constructed in full swing. General Du Lun in a black military coat stood on the top of the hill with a majestic expression. He looked out over the port area of the city. The fortifications of the security forces are mainly concentrated in the vicinity of the port area for construction. He took out the map again. This map is exactly that of Gaia Island and the surrounding area. The shape of Gaia Island is like a huge false tooth erected, except that there is a huge harbor in the middle of the north, and the sea water flows into the harbor from the middle of the north. Magic Valley City is located in the western part of Gaia Island, a port built facing the Western Sea. And in the northeast sea area of the entire Gaia Island, there is a small reef island. There is the base of the Bellamy Pirates. The security forces on the coastline near the port of Magic Valley City began to build a large number of fortifications. These fortifications vary in size. Some of them were heavy forts as large as houses. The commander of the 1st Army of the Security Forces, Ludwig's army, commanded the 1st Army to build and use these heavy forts. The 1st Legion is the most powerful heavy-armed assault force among the remaining security forces. The 1st Army is equipped with a large number of heavy artillery. These heavy artillery are relatively bulky and inconvenient to transport, so now it is time to build the forts and install the heavy artillery in these forts. The 4th Army, which now has the largest number of troops, also participates in the construction of coastal fortifications. The strength of the 4th Army Corps reached after incorporating the officers and soldiers of the original 3rd Army Corps. The 4th Corps is equipped with a large number of machine guns, and other intensive firepower weapons, and its officers and soldiers are also very good at defensive operations and fortification operations. Therefore, the 4th Army is responsible for the construction and use of small and medium fortifications except for large forts. The commander of the 4th Army, Koraz, led the officers and soldiers to build well-trained bunkers and tunnels. In particular, the construction of a large number of tunnels allows officers and soldiers to take shelter in the tunnels in time during combat to avoid heavy enemy firepower. The 1st Army and the 4th Army were working non-stop to build fortifications and forts at the port of Magic Valley City and the nearby coastline. The final 5th Legion was maneuvering near the port of Demon Valley City, and would rush to rescue in time if a war broke out. The 5th Legion, commanded by Commander Drock, uses a large number of rhinoceros and other biological mounts, which have good mobility. And the firepower is also strong. In the event of a battle, support can be maneuvered. After looking at the map for a while, General Duran continued to observe the fortifications at the port of Magic Valley City and the nearby coastline. Our army has now stabilized, and we are building powerful fortifications every second. Once in battle, these fortifications can play a huge role, General Du Lun said to the senior officers who followed him. He just added, but there is another thing worth worrying about. That is the safety of Mayor Grandet. This is very important. So I asked Commander Drake to send 500 officers and soldiers from the 5th Army to strictly guard Grandet. Longtai Mansion. And ordinary travel is also strictly guarded. A senior military officer said, in addition to us, Mayor Grandet's bodyguards and the guards in Magic Valley City will also assist. Pirate plant fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 522. ID Con 1686930. General Duran looked at him and said, "Do you expect those guys to be reliable? The bodyguards seem to have some strength, but those security forces can only deal with street gangsters and petty thieves. They are vulnerable to real powerful enemies. So the security army is the powerful army that truly determines the future of Demon Valley City. In Magic Valley City, the armed forces under Grandet's command consisted of security forces and security forces. The security force is divided into land forces and fleet forces, while the guard force is divided into port guard force and city guard force. But in the eyes of the security forces, these guards are nothing more than some insignificant fighting forces. Only the security forces are the real warriors. Grandet is also the favorite of the security forces. The security forces only maintain order, but the security forces maintain rule. The senior officer immediately said respectfully, "Yes, General Duran is right. Our security force is the truly powerful army." General Dulun looked at the various ships gathered at the port of Magic Valley City. The huge civilian port area accommodates more than 100 ships of various sizes. Among them are dozens of large merchant ships, responsible for transporting people and goods. It's just that the military port area of the former port is empty, but there are no returning patrol boats or supply ships. That huge fleet died in the sea together with the former chief of staff of the security forces. At this point, General Dulun took over the power of the army at a critical moment, and quickly reorganized and deployed the troops. Unfortunately, the port cannot be blocked yet. Our enemies may still take the opportunity to sneak in, General Dulun said worriedly. General Duran also considered that the Aruyama United Army and the newly opposing Straw Hat Pirates might send people to sneak into Demon Valley City. In this case, the best thing is to block the port and temporarily stop shipping and commercial activities. But Grandet ordered not to hinder shipping and commercial activities. The largest shipping company and major shopping malls in Magic Valley City also include Grandet Bank and chain factories. These four core industries are all Grandet's property. Once shipping and business are stopped, Grandet's lost wealth will be astronomical. In fact, General Duran once asked Grandet and requested a blockade of the port. But Grandet rejected this proposal because it was one thing to fight the enemy and another thing to do with industry. Grandet is not just not allowed to stop shipping and business practices. Moreover, the news of the destruction of the security forces fleet was strictly blocked. Because once the panic of war is triggered, a large number of merchant ships and merchants will be lost, causing Grandet's industry to be greatly affected. The richest man in Magic Valley City is Grandet. Once the business of this port city is affected, Grandet will suffer the biggest loss. Grandet is all about money. Of course, in order to stimulate the combat effectiveness of the three main legions of the remaining security forces, Grandet used hundreds of millions of belly to reward him successively. After all, in order to be loyal to Grandet, General Dulun had no choice but to continue working like this. Since it is impossible to block the port, we have no choice but to strengthen the investigation and intelligence work in Magic Valley City. In addition, he also led the security forces to build a fortification group at the port of Magic Valley City and the nearby coastal areas, so as to prepare for future battles. General Duran looked at the port of Demon Valley City and the nearby coast. A large number of fortifications were built. But the enemy we are about to face is also very powerful. Even the mighty security force fleet was destroyed because of the mighty enemy. In short, what awaits the security forces is definitely a fierce battle. During these days, the security forces of Magic Valley City have been building fortifications under the leadership of General Dulun. On the other hand, the Saruyama United Army is continuing its operations. Mont Blanc Kurik stayed at the sea dock with Usopp, Chopper and the Goddess of Springs, doing various things with many crew members. The damage to the sea dock originally suffered in previous battles was finally fully repaired. Moreover, all weapons installations, especially the facilities inside the 4 super forts, have been maintained. This offshore dock is ready for battle. Mont Blanc Kulak is still very dedicated to commanding the actions of the Ape Mountain United Army, and keeps in touch with the Victory Hunter and Uton probe at all times. Usopp makes various gadgets. Although Usopp is not a professional craftsman. But he himself actually established a Usopp factory that can manufacture countless tools for different purposes by virtue of his research on tools. After obtaining the huge flying fish fins and the ink sac of the giant octopus this time, Usopp asked for some machinery and tools in the sea dock. Using these as materials, Usopp racked his brains to create new tools. Chopper hurriedly produced the necessary medicines, and imparted medical knowledge to the doctors and crew members on the offshore dock. Although there are several doctors at the offshore dock, their medical skills are very limited. With Chopper's teachings, they and some crew members asked Chopper for advice very respectfully. Chopper was very happy in the compliment, although he was embarrassed, but this little guy still liked to be appreciated from the bottom of his heart. In this way, Chopper taught his powerful medical knowledge earnestly among the praises. The goddess of spring water continues to realize the power of the 3 axes as ancient magic weapons. Whether it is a golden axe, a silver axe, or an iron axe, all of them have extremely powerful magical combat power if they can control them. The morale of the crew in the offshore dock was high, encouraged by the victory of the previous annihilation of the security forces fleet. The people of the Saruyama United Army were greatly encouraged. On the sea far from the sea dock. Victory for the Ape Command. The hunter is fishing for seafood. This powerful pirate ship with heavy firepower is very efficient even for fishing seafood. Zoro, the king of ninjas, and Nami all help catch seafood. Needless to say, Sauron and the king of ninjas, the two have been together for many days and helped the orangutans catch a lot of powerful prey such as sharks and killer whales. Although Nami doesn't have such a strong fishing ability, she can observe the environment of the sea and the sky, which is not only helpful for sailing ships, but also for finding sea areas suitable for the survival of some marine life. The orangutan also went into the sea himself and caught a lot of prey. It has been captured for 4 consecutive days, and this is the morning of the 4th day. Victory. Hunter floating on a sea. Okay, such a huge hairtail is really enough to eat for a long time, the orangutan said excitedly. Sauron, the king of ninjas, and the orangutan went into the sea together and killed 3 giant hairtails more than 10 meters long. Now they are to salvage these giant hairtails to the heavy pirate ship. Saving is good, hunting is good, victory. Many crew members on the deck of the Hunter also shouted excitedly. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 523. ID Con 1687777. Many crew members on the Victory Hunter also tied the 3 giant hairtails with iron chains, and then hoisted them up with a crane. Hey, everyone hoist 3 giant hairtail fish up. This is a big harvest, the orangutan said excitedly. With the screeching sound of iron chains, 3 giant hairtails were hoisted onto the deck of the Victory Hunter. The apes and Zoro and the king of ninjas also returned to the deck together. The orangutan walked in front of the 3 giant hairtails, and when he saw the 3 giant hairtails, his face was extremely happy. Our boss is amazing. The swordsman is so awesome. This ninja brother is really powerful. Many crew members praised the apes and Sauron and the king of ninjas endlessly. Ahahaha, what's the matter? I'm just showing off to everyone, the orangutan said narcissistically. Sauron and the king of ninjas had calm faces and did not reveal their expressions. The orangutan then walked up to Nami and said to her appreciatively, Nami, you are really an amazing navigator. By judging the flow of the sea water, you calculated where the fish schools might be. Not only did you catch a group of sardines this time, I also discovered these 3 giant hairtail fish by the way. You have really done a great job. Ha ha ha. Nami also smiled and said, it's a joke, Now the seafood we hunt is almost filling this boat. How long do we plan to hunt for? Having said that, the orangutan looked at the three giant hairtails on the deck. And hundreds of sardines the size of barrels. Amazing seafood prey had also been caught earlier, which had been emergency rouged and placed in the hold below. Now this 100-meter-long heavy pirate ship is almost full of prey. Well, indeed. I think it's time for us to return. But it seems we still need to get some scallops. Nami, please help guide us to the shallower sea area on the seabed. After we get enough scallops we will return to the sea dock, the orangutan said after thinking about it. After hearing this, Nami said, okay. It would also be nice to get some scallops. The orangutan said to everyone on the deck, everyone have a rest, and then we will look for scallops. Oh! The crew on deck shouted with joy. After some fishing, everyone also needs to take a rest. Everyone took out some dry bread and salted fish and began to eat. Of course, some people directly made sashimi from the caught sardines. A group of burly crew members carried several coconuts as tall as a person. These coconuts were made with the help of rock before, and these coconuts can be used as drinks. Because everyone has an important task, which is to catch a lot of seafood as supplies, there is no way to drink too much. But it's also nice to be able to gulp down the coconut water. Saran brought over a sardine, which was as big as a wooden barrel. Saran pulled out quiche and pointed it at the sardine. Clang 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 clang. Saran swung on its hook for a while to kill. The body of the sardine was severed into a pile of fleshy pieces. Saran picked up a piece, put it on the plate and cut it with a small dagger. The sashimi cut by Zoro was very good, evenly thin and thick, and soon the plate was filled with enough sashimi for a big meal. Zoro inserted the sashimi with a bamboo stick and was about to put it in his mouth. The Ninja King took out a small jar and said, "Do you want to dip it in sauce?" Saran took the jar and said, "Thank you." Zoro glanced at the plate in the hands of the Ninja King again, which was also full of cut sashimi. "The sashimi is well cut," Zoro rarely praised. "You too." The Ninja King looked at the sashimi on Saran's plate. Zoro poured the sauce on one side of the plate, dipped the sashimi in the sauce and put it in his mouth. "By the way, the only dish I am good at is sashimi. Who asked me to practice swords?" "This sauce is not bad," Zoro said after tasting the sashimi. The Ninja King also ate the dipped sashimi and said, "Oh, I asked Sanji for that sauce. He is very generous. Why don't you ask him for a jar?" Saran said, "No wonder, the sauce made by Curly Eyebrow is always good. After all, he is a cook. But I am not like you. If I ask for sauce, he will definitely mock me. By the way, show off his cooking skills, how amazing." After saying that, Zoro and the Ninja King laughed together. Zoro saw a giant coconut placed on deck by one of the crew and said, "I'm thirsty." Saran walked over and carried the giant coconut over. This giant coconut is bigger than a wooden barrel, with a diameter of more than 1 meter. Zoro swung Gaidaru and slashed at the top of the giant coconut. Chong! A piece of the top of a giant coconut was chopped off. This giant coconut is like a wooden barrel that has been lifted. Zoro lifted up the giant coconut and gulped it down. Then Saran put down the giant coconut, and at this time the King of Ninjas caught the giant coconut. "I'm still thirsty too." The Ninja King took the giant coconut over. He also lifted the giant coconut with one hand, and poured it into his mouth. After taking a swig of coconut water, the Ninja King began to taste sashimi again. Zoro and the King of Ninjas continue to eat sashimi dipping sauce and gulp down coconut water. The people on the Victory Hunter were eating, drinking, and resting, but there was a creature in the sea below that was quickly swimming towards the heavy pirate ship. A huge fish more than 30 meters long with an astonishing speed approached the Victory Hunter. The fish was so fast that it took the heavy pirate ship as its target. Victory in the eyes of this huge creature. The hunter is like a rare prey floating in the sea, waiting to be caught by it. The speed of this huge fish is getting faster and faster, as fast as a cannonball in sea water. The giant fish finally swam quickly to the bottom of Victory Hunter. It aimed its very sharp upper jaw at the bottom of the heavy pirate ship. Quickly the giant fish swam towards the bottom of the boat. Or stab it. At this time, on the deck of the Victory Hunter, the orangutan and the crew were talking and laughing. Suddenly, as if the whole ship was hit by something, there was a heavy tremor from below. Chong! A huge sword-like spike broke through the deck and pierced through the steel and high-quality wood hull. The people on the deck were all affected by the shock of the hull, staggering from side to side. "What's going on?" the ape said in shock. Zorro looked at the huge sharp spikes piercing the deck. The spikes were really like a huge sword. But it seems to be the body part of some creature. "It seems that we were attacked by something," Sauron said. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 524. ID Con 1687778. Could this be? The Ninja King thought of something when he saw the huge spikes. Nami was horrified and cried, "It's so scary." The other crew members also looked terrified. It was suddenly attacked, and even the extremely strong hull made of steel and high-quality wood was penetrated. It can be said to be very dangerous now. The huge spikes were then pulled back. Victory! The hull of the hunter oscillated for a while. The creature that attacked the meter-long heavy pirate ship withdrew its spikes. The man-ape just came back to his senses now, and he quickly said, "Could it be a swordfish?" Swordfish. After hearing this word, everyone became nervous. Swordfish are amazingly fast swimmers with sword-like upper jaws. Even an ordinary swordfish, which is several meters long, is a fast fish that can penetrate the hull of a ship with its extremely fast speed and sharp and hard upper jaws. The swordfish that attacked Victory Hunter just now can be said to be astonishingly large. It's just that the upper jaw, which is like a giant sword, penetrates the upper deck from the bottom of the ship. The volume of the opponent is at least tens of meters long. In addition to the terrifying giant sword-like upper jaw, the speed of this giant swordfish itself is also extremely terrifying. In addition to penetrating the hull just now, the astonishing tremor was the performance of the opponent's terrifying strength and speed. Originally, the ship was floating on the sea, but when it was attacked just now, it seemed that an astonishing tsunami had occurred. Nami sat slumped on the deck, and said with a terrified expression, "We have met the god of death from hell." Zorro and the King of Ninja also had grim faces, and now they were facing a very difficult opponent. Even if other marine creatures are huge in size, they still have room to maneuver. But the speed of a giant swordfish is simply overwhelming. Everyone, don't panic, prepare to leave here quickly. Hurry up and set sail, and seal off the leaky cabin at the bottom of the ship, the man-ape said. It's time to act quickly. The crew members hurriedly unfolded the huge sails of the Victory Hunter. And some of the crew quickly made their way to the pierced cabin at the bottom of the ship, blocking the water with watertight hatches. Now Victory Hunter is in extreme danger. But now we can no longer stop here. Taking action and sailing will give us some opportunities to escape. When the Victory Hunter started sailing, a crew member suddenly shouted, "The giant swordfish is coming here." The ape and Zorro, the King of Ninja, Nami, and some crew members hurried to the stern of the Victory Hunter to watch. I saw an astonishingly huge swordfish swimming across the sea from behind. The opponent's speed is at least 10 times that of the Victory Hunter. The sea was really split like a giant sword with sunlight, and the giant swordfish stabbed towards the stern of the Victory Hunter this time. "Oops," said the ape. "It's over." Nami was horrified, her face filled with tears. At this time, the King of Ninjas, without saying a word, quickly rushed to the place where the giant hairtail was placed on the deck, drew out the ninja knife on his back, pointed it at the giant hairtail, and chopped it off. The Ninja King cut off the head of the giant hairtail, and carried it over to the stern of the boat. He looked at the giant swordfish that was chasing him, judged the direction, and suddenly threw the head of the giant hairtail fish. The head of the giant hairtail was thrown out and fell into the sea with a plop. Then within a few seconds, suddenly there was a huge wave on the sea. I saw a giant swordfish more than 30 meters long breaking through the sea and jumping out. "This is so huge," the ape said in shock. "It's terrible," Nami said in horror. "What a big guy," Zoro said with a stern expression. The king of ninjas looked into the mouth of the giant swordfish, and the head of the giant hairtail was bitten in that huge mouth. Although the giant hairtail fish is huge, only more than 10 meters long, this giant swordfish is more than 30 meters long. The mouth of the giant hairtail fish can bite a horse, but the mouth of the giant swordfish can bite a hippopotamus. "Fortunately, I took the bait," the Ninja King said with a sigh of relief. "Just now, I used the head of a giant hairtail fish as bait and successfully attracted a giant swordfish to feed." The man-ape also understood this, looked at the Ninja King and said, "You are really smart." The Ninja King said, "I think this giant swordfish must have taken our boat as prey. So just give it a bait." Sauron looked at the sea at this time, and suddenly the giant swordfish started to swim again, splitting the water of the sea. "It seems it hasn't eaten enough yet," Zoro said. After the orangutan saw the giant swordfish split the sea and continued to chase, he hurriedly led the crew to carry the giant hairtail. "Hurry, cut a few more sections, and then throw them into the sea one by one to attract the attention of the giant swordfish," the orangutan ordered nervously. "Hurry up and cut them up." The crew members were very nervous and cut up 3 giant hairtail fish at the same time. The orangutan quickly picked up the yak's 3-meter-long hairtail meat and rushed to the stern of the boat. At this time, the giant swordfish was almost approaching the stern of the boat. Sauron and others at the stern of the boat could even see the huge upper jaw of the giant swordfish. And the huge eyes on the head. The huge upper jaw is really as sharp as a giant sword. The entire giant swordfish is more than 30 meters long, but the giant sword-like upper jaw is more than 10 meters long. How huge is a giant sword more than 10 meters long, so the huge upper jaw of the giant swordfish can be imagined. Those huge eyes are as huge as coconuts. This astonishingly fast marine creature with sharp weapons is capable of fighting or even killing a giant sea king that is hundreds of meters away. Seeing the huge upper jaw of the giant swordfish more than 10 meters long, Sauron said with a serious face at this time, "I'm afraid this guy is a swordsman among sea fish." "Okay, here you go." The orangutan threw out the 3-meter-long giant hairtail. Down to the stern. The octopus is full of the smell of fresh seafood that has just been slaughtered, and the giant swordfish quickly pounces on the huge octopus. The huge piece of hairtail was bitten in the mouth by a giant swordfish. Seeing this, the ape gasped nervously. "Finally saved," the orangutan said with the rest of his life after the catastrophe. "Boss, we have also cut up the other hairtail meat one after another." Some crew members moved over sections of huge hairtail. The 3 giant hairtails were cut into more than 10 sections, and they were all piled up here at the stern. The orangutan observed the position of the giant swordfish again, and sure enough, after the giant swordfish got the food, it started eating there again. During this period of time, the Victory Hunter sailed with full sail and opened the distance. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 525. ID Con 1688573. I have also learned about the habits of swordfish. They have good observation skills. Therefore, even if they sail irregularly, we can't avoid it. What's more, the opponent is so huge that we can't dodge it. So now we can only take advantage of the opponent. When the bait was dropped, we sailed in a straight line and at full speed. When the other party came after me again, I seized the opportunity to give an order and then throw down new hairtail meat. Do not throw hairtail meat indiscriminately, our hairtail meat is limited and we can only do this. Orangutan ape analyzed and issued an order. The king of ninja looked at more than 10 pieces of hairtail meat and said, "Are these really enough?" The orangutan looked at the huge hairtail meat again. It was much bigger for humans, but was it really enough to feed the giant swordfish? The orangutan ordered the crew again, "Take out the giant squids caught yesterday and prepare to throw them one by one. Also, it is not good to throw the small seafood. It can eat those small seafood in one bite. Throwing them away is the same as not throwing them." A crew member said, "But boss, the giant squid and other seafood we caught before were marinated in a lot of sea salt. If so, will this giant swordfish take the bait?" The orangutan looked very anxious, and said, "I have no choice but to try. Okay, let's move it up." A group of crew rushed to the cabin below to bring up the giant squid meat that had been marinated before. The ape looked at the sea behind him with a serious face. The piece of hairtail meat just now was enough for the giant swordfish to eat for a while, and during this time, it also opened up a distance of thousands of meters. But soon, the water in the sea behind was split open. Apparently the giant swordfish is on the move again. The orangutan put a piece of huge hairtail fish nearly 3 meters long beside him, ready to throw it down at any time. "Be ready this time," said the ape. He always calculates the approaching distance of the opponent, and once he wants to hit the pirate ship, he will throw the huge hairtail down. The giant hairtail is constantly approaching. Now that the situation has stabilized, of course it is still very dangerous. But fortunately, it can still deal with this giant swordfish for the time being. Nami was no longer so scared. She regained her composure and hurried to help direct the ship's navigation. Nami was standing near the bow of the Victory Hunter, and she was diligently observing her surroundings. By feeling the sea breeze, air pressure, and factors such as sea water flow and sky clouds, you can judge whether there is something like a storm. "What happened?" "The weather here is so good," Nami said. "In bad weather, it may be possible to use the environment against this giant swordfish. For example, when a tornado blows on the sea, it will form a huge soaring water flow. By luring the giant swordfish over like that, you can get rid of it. Since there is no way to use the weather to deal with this giant swordfish, then use the things in the sea, whirlpools." Nami's eyes suddenly lit up. She suddenly beamed with joy and clapped her palms together. Nami said, "If you pay attention, use the submarine vortex." Nami quickly rushed to the stern again, and said to the orangutan and Zoro, "I have a good idea." The apes and the others looked at Nami and said, "Good idea." Nami said happily, "It's the undersea whirlpool. Do you remember the undersea whirlpool we encountered the day before yesterday?" The ape suddenly remembered. Victory the day before yesterday. On the way of fishing, the hunter passed a submarine vortex. The submarine vortex has a diameter of more than meters, and even a heavy ship with a length of meters will be sucked into it. The ape said, "Undersea whirlpool." He also knew what to do in general. Nami continued, "We will guide this giant swordfish to the sea vortex, and then the sea vortex will clean it up." After hearing this, the crew members were all happy. "It's indeed a good idea. Then let's go to that underwater whirlpool. Besides this method, there is no other way. Go and do it quickly." The orangutan said, "Okay, let's go to the underwater whirlpool. But can you still grasp the location?" Nami said, "No problem, leave it to me." Nami has an amazing understanding of the sea, so she was able to identify the location of the underwater vortex based on the wind direction and current. Although she is a cute girl on the surface, she possesses unimaginable sailing abilities. Nami quickly went to direct the ship to the sea area where the underwater vortex was located. The orangutans and the others are still monitoring the giant swordfish at the stern of the boat. The giant swordfish showed no sign of giving up, it continued to chase Victory Hunter through the sea. The orangutans kept throwing down huge hairtail meat to temporarily ease the pursuit of the giant swordfish. Whenever the huge hairtail meat is thrown down, the giant swordfish will eat the bait. At this time, the Victory Hunter was able to sail for a while to distance itself from the giant swordfish. But the giant swordfish quickly caught up again after eating. Then the orangutans threw the bait again, and the cycle repeated. Victory. The hunter has been on the verge of life and death. Victory in this way. The hunter and the giant swordfish have a life and death chase of hunting and escaping in the sea. Nami commanded the heavy pirate ship to sail to the sea area where the huge submarine vortex she saw that day was located. It goes on like this. After sailing for a while, the orangutans had already thrown away the huge hairtail. Then the huge squid meat was also thrown down. At first, the orangutans were worried whether these squid meat, which had been cured with a lot of sea salt, would be liked by giant swordfish. But it turned out that the giant swordfish really laughed at these very salty squid meat. More than a dozen pieces of squid meat were thrown out one after another, and the giant swordfish swallowed them all. The ape and Zoro and the Ninja King and some crew members are standing here at the stern. What an edible guy, the orangutan said with emotion after throwing out another huge piece of squid meat. Zoro looked at the giant swordfish that stopped eating squid meat and said, "It's so edible, it's like Luffy among swordfish." But making this kind of joke now makes it impossible for anyone to laugh. There was a sound of pedaling on the deck, and several crew members rushed over and said, "Now let's move the whale meat." The orangutan looked at them and said, "Okay, you guys go and bring over those whale meats." The crew hurried to the cabin below to bring over the marinated whale meat. The orangutan looked back again and saw that the sea surface was split open. The giant swordfish finished the squid meat just thrown away and continued chasing. At the observatory on the top of the Victory Hunter's main mast, the crew members using large telescopes saw a huge vortex spinning in the distant sea. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 526. ID Con 16888574. He immediately shouted to the deck below with a loudspeaker, "We have reached the sea area of the underwater vortex." Hearing the news, everyone was overwhelmed. Nami, who was standing at the bow of the ship, was even more delighted when she heard it. "Okay, order the helmsman to continue moving toward the underwater whirlpool," Nami said. The Victory Hunter headed towards the underwater vortex that it was finally reaching. At the stern of the boat, the orangutan and Saran also got the news. "That's great," the orangutan was extremely happy. At the same time he lifted a large piece of squid and threw it over the stern of the boat. The giant swordfish quickly went to eat the squid meat and paused momentarily. Zoro looked towards the giant swordfish and said, "Is this guy attracted by the bait we threw down, and instead kept chasing us?" The orangutan said, "But if we don't do this, the ship we are traveling on may become a target. If we don't throw the bait at the beginning, the ship may have been stabbed into a sieve long ago. Anyway, we are already prey, there's not much to worry about anymore." Victory. The hunter continued to sail towards the vortex on the bottom of the sea. The giant swordfish finished eating the squid meat again and continued to catch up. Above this sea, an undersea whirlpool more than 200 meters is constantly rotating. Although this submarine vortex is not particularly huge, it also involves everything that approaches. Many marine life were involved and buried in it. Victory. The hunter sailed hard for a while, and finally approached this underwater vortex. Near the bow, Nami and the other crew members were able to clearly see the underwater vortex. Seeing this underwater vortex, Nami carefully directed the voyage of Victory Hunter. "Turn the rudder to the left, and then turn to the right." "Slow down," Nami carefully commanded the heavy pirate ship. After all, it is quite dangerous to approach the sea vortex. If there is a little carelessness, the Victory Hunter will also be involved. Victory. At the stern of the hunter, the orangutans have already finished throwing the squid meat, and now they are starting to throw the whale meat. Here you go. The ape lifted up a piece of whale meat as big as a cow and threw it into the sea in front of the giant swordfish. The giant swordfish also went to eat the piece of whale meat. The orangutan finally moved his eyes away from the position of the giant swordfish, and looked at the swirling vortex on the bottom of the sea. I saw a submarine vortex with a diameter of more than meters rotating violently. There seems to be a bottomless pit in the middle of the submarine vortex, and the surrounding sea water is constantly rotating and flowing into it. Once this thing enters, it's impossible to get out, said the orangutan. Nami carefully commanded Victory. The hunter sailed around the vortex on the bottom of the sea. Victory Hunter is sailing around the vortex, but Nami always pays attention to the distance from the vortex. Ensure that this heavy pirate ship cannot be sucked into the underwater whirlpool. After the giant swordfish finished eating the huge piece of whale meat, it chased towards the Victory Hunter again. This time the orangutan raised a large piece of whale meat, and was always paying attention to the position of the giant swordfish. This time he wanted to use the thrown whale meat to lure the giant swordfish over. Hey, you two can help too. Each lift up a large piece of whale meat and toss it with me. The instinct of creatures is to avoid danger, and maybe this giant swordfish is the same. The ape looked at Sauron and the Ninja King and said. No problem, Sauron said. He and the Ninja King each held up a large chunk of whale meat to throw. The apes and the others always pay attention to the distance of the giant swordfish. The giant swordfish is getting closer. Now both the Victory Hunter and the giant swordfish are traveling around the vortex on the bottom of the sea. The giant swordfish quickly swam to a position only 100 meters away from the stern of the ship. Throw! Cried the ape. At the same time, he threw the lifted whale meat to the edge of the sea vortex. Sauron and the King of Ninjas also threw 2 large pieces of whale meat away. The location is also the same as that of the orangutan. The giant swordfish saw 3 large chunks of whale meat thrown there. It quickly changed direction and swam towards the 3 large pieces of whale meat. 3 large pieces of whale meat were thrown to the edge of the sea vortex, and then were continuously drawn in by the sea vortex. The giant swordfish also chased after him. Successful, the apes and the others said happily. Nami and other crew members were also very happy after seeing it. The giant swordfish followed the 3 entangled pieces of whale meat. As a result, it quickly reached the middle of the submarine vortex. The seawater vortex around the giant swordfish is getting stronger and stronger, and even this giant swordfish can't help being sucked into it. Victory! Amazing cheers arose from the deck of the Hunter. It worked. We made it. The giant swordfish got caught in it. We won. All people are very happy. Nami quickly ordered, okay, now the right rudder is full. Let's leave this underwater vortex quickly. This submarine vortex rotates counterclockwise, and the Victory Hunter has been traveling counterclockwise around this submarine vortex. Now that the giant swordfish has finally been introduced into the underwater whirlpool, it is so successful that the hunter can leave. The hull of the Victory Hunter began to leave the edge of the underwater whirlpool. In the submarine vortex, the giant swordfish was constantly restrained by the powerful force of the submarine vortex, and continued to roll towards the center of the submarine vortex. At this time, the giant swordfish suddenly relied on its powerful instinct to turn its body clockwise, which was opposite to the rotation direction of the bottom vortex. It concentrated all its strength and began to swim rapidly. Of course, because of the huge force of the whirlpool on the seafloor, its speed is greatly slowed down. The giant swordfish actually began to swim counterclockwise gradually from the area close to the center of the sea vortex to the outside. If the current speed of the giant swordfish were placed in ordinary seas, it would be much faster than a cannonball. But now it just swims out as slowly as a whale. At this time, the Victory Hunter had just left the undersea vortex not far away. The crew on the observatory on the top of the main mast of the Victory Hunter saw an amazing scene in the underwater vortex. Oops, the giant swordfish seems to be swimming out. The sound spread through the loudspeaker throughout the Victory Hunter. After hearing the sound, Nami, the orangutan, Zoro, the king of ninjas, and the crew hurriedly looked towards the vortex on the bottom of the sea. At this time, even from the deck, the situation of the submarine vortex can be seen. I saw the violent sea water in the vortex of the seabed being split. Something like a huge sharp sword was cutting through the sea water. Seeing this scene, Nami's expression changed. She said with a gloomy face, "How is this possible?" The orangutan said in shock, "It can actually rush out. It's really powerful," Zoro sighed. "This kind of vigor is unstoppable," the Ninja King said. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 527. ID Con 1689394. The giant swordfish in the sea vortex continued to use all its strength to swim towards the outside of the sea vortex. The huge force of the underwater vortex only slows down its speed, but cannot really stop it. The giant swordfish finally broke through to the outer area of the vortex on the bottom of the sea. Then the giant swordfish jumped up. Thump! The giant swordfish fell back into the normal sea. I saw the giant swordfish returning to the ordinary sea. Seeing this scene, everyone on the Victory Hunter changed their faces drastically, and the powerful underwater vortex could not destroy the giant swordfish. Nami saw the giant swordfish swimming in the sea again, and the upper jaw of the giant swordfish split the water like a giant sword. The giant swordfish now started chasing Victory Hunter again. "It's over," Nami said with a horrified look on her face. The orangutan saw the giant swordfish chasing after him again, and quickly raised another large piece of whale meat and threw it towards the giant swordfish. This huge piece of whale meat plopped into the sea. The giant swordfish still did not change its greedy nature and continued to bite towards the whale meat. Fortunately, this guy is greedy," the ape said with heavy breath. "Now, by continuing to throw whale meat, we can continue to delay for a while." The ape looked at the whale meat. Although there were dozens of pieces of whale meat, it was still limited after all. How much longer could it be delayed? Zoro looked in the direction of the giant swordfish and said, "It's not going to work like this. So I think we'd better find a way to kill it." "Kill it?" The ape and the crew were shocked. Sauron's bold idea shocked almost everyone, except the Ninja King. The King of Ninja looked at Sauron and said, "Are you really sure you can kill it?" Zoro shook the 3 samurai swords on his waist, and said, "I don't know very well. But if you don't fight, there is definitely no way out." Facing the current situation, Sauron decided to fight. The King of Ninja said, "In this case, I will also participate in this battle." Sauron and the Ninja King decided to join the battle and destroy the giant swordfish. The orangutan and the crew saw the determination of the two, and they looked at each other with both admiration and curiosity. "If this is the case, then we will fully cooperate with you in the battle," the ape said. "It all depends on the two of you fighting. We will all do our best. We admire the swordsman hero and the ninja hero from the bottom of our hearts for their courage." Many crew members also said that their morale was boosted. Word spread throughout the Victory Hunter that Zoro and the King of Ninjas were going to fight the giant swordfish. Nami, who was near the bow, also said after hearing the news, "What two crazy guys. But right now there is no other way but to fight hard." Nami and other crew members also naturally cooperated with Sauron in the battle with the King of Ninjas. "There is only one way to die if you don't fight now." Sauron and the Ninja King stood at the stern of the Victory Hunter, observing the actions of the giant swordfish behind. The giant swordfish ate the huge piece of whale meat again, and then chased after the Victory Hunter. The surface of the sea was violently split open, and the huge upper jaw of the giant swordfish really looked like a giant sword. Sauron looked at this dangerous guy and said, "This is really a scary guy. It's too fast." The king of Ninja looked at the giant swordfish splitting the sea and said, "So we have to find a way to destroy its eyes." The upper jaw of the giant swordfish is a sharp weapon like a giant sword more than 10 meters away, so Sauron and the king of ninjas will not confront each other head-on. You must know that the giant swordfish can even pierce the hull made of steel. The ninja king said, however, besides the eyes, the giant swordfish mainly relies on sound to detect and locate the target. So even if the opponent's eyes are injured, it cannot prevent it from locating us. After hearing this, Sauron looked at the ape and said, "Ape, this guy can detect and locate by sound. Then I'll trouble you." The ape understood what it meant and said, "Okay, leave it to me." The orangutan quickly ordered to a group of crew members, "Okay, now put down the ape machine at the bow, and manipulate the ape machine to beat the gong in the sea. In this way, it can effectively destroy the sound waves in the sea. It will affect the echo of the giant swordfish positioning. In addition, prepare some more iron chains and throw them into the sea, and then hit the iron chains hard, and the sound will be transmitted into the sea to strengthen the destructive sound waves." The crew all shouted together, "Okay." The current situation is between life and death, and all crew members are very motivated. The crew maneuvered swiftly to victory. The hunter lowered the great ape machinery at the bow with a crane. The large ape-like mechanism itself looks like a gong-beating ape, but it's no ordinary toy. This is a powerful machine originally used to salvage shipwrecks on the ocean floor. However, it also has a special purpose, that is, the two arms of the ape robot can knock gongs. Once the ape machine hits the gong, it can generate a huge signal. Now the ape mech is put into the sea. However, in order to cooperate with the fast sailing of the Victory Hunter, it was only put into the sea at a depth of more than 10 meters. In the middle of the sea, the orangutan mechanically grasped the gong with both arms, and began to beat the gong violently towards the middle. Chong! A piercing sound shook the surrounding sea. The speed of sound in sea water is much faster than that in air, so this piercing sound quickly covered the surrounding sea area. Most creatures in the ocean mainly rely on making sounds, echolocation after touching objects, and determining the shape and size, and then let the creatures make decisions where to hunt or swim. However, the huge gong sound of the orangutan machine disrupted the sounds in the surrounding sea. Comparing the sound waves of most marine life to the mechanical gong of an ape is rats versus elephants. The sound of the gongs caused serious confusion in the echolocation of the creatures in the surrounding sea. Clang 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 clang. The loud sound of the ape mechanically beating the gong constantly echoed in the surrounding sea. Everyone on the deck of the Victory Hunter could hear these sounds, let alone in the sea. In addition, the crew also put a large number of iron chains into the sea from both sides of the hull. The crew beat the chains with hammers and blunt objects for a while. Dang, clang, 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 clang. The harsh metal clashing sound was also transmitted to the sea below through the beaten iron chain. Although the sound of the mechanical gongs of the apes is extremely loud and the range is amazing, there is still a weakness after all, that is, the frequency is not high enough. The sound of the crew members beating on the iron chain just complemented this point. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 528. ID Con 1689422. Zorro and the King of Ninjas stared intently at the giant swordfish behind. After deciding to fight just now, the orangutans threw several large pieces of whale meat one after another. It took some more time. Now the giant swordfish is splitting through the sea again, swimming over at top speed. Zorro tightened his grip on the katana hilt at his waist, and the Ninja King's arm was already holding the ninja sword hilt on his back. The two can strike at any time. The orangutan was ready to cooperate with the two of them at all times, and he carried another large piece of whale meat. The giant swordfish is getting closer. Go ahead. The ape threw the whale meat into the sea at the stern of the ship. The giant swordfish found the whale meat and quickly bit the whale meat. It bit into the whale meat and was less than 50 meters away from the stern of the ship. It's time. Zoro and the Ninja King shouted in unison. Their knives had already been unsheathed, and their bodies jumped into the air. The two of them charged towards the giant swordfish. One sword style. Death. Lion song. Ghost knife skills. Pierce the heart. The katana and ninja swords struck the left and right eyes respectively. The giant swordfish had two eyeballs the size of coconuts cut off. Zoro and the King of Ninja quickly landed on the giant swordfish's back. The giant swordfish then roared in pain, and its entire body jumped out of the sea. The orangutan and the crew looked at the giant swordfish in horror. This extremely dangerous big guy then fell into the sea. Before Zoro and the King of Ninja fell into the sea, they quickly landed on the back of the giant swordfish and jumped out. The giant swordfish fell into the sea with a plop, causing a huge splash. Plop plop. Zoro and the King of Ninjas also fell into the sea. Zoro and the Ninja King hurriedly swam in the sea. But at this moment, the huge upper jaw of a giant swordfish suddenly stabbed behind the two of them. What? Sauron and the Ninja King escaped urgently. But the opponent's assassination speed was extremely fast. At this time, suddenly the two heard a huge gong sound in the sea. This huge sound made the creatures in the sea feel deafening. The huge upper jaw of the giant swordfish also penetrated the gap between the two people. The blow just now was a narrow escape. If the giant swordfish deflects another 4 or 5 meters towards any person, it will directly pierce that person. And almost no one can resist this upper jaw, which is more than 10 meters long and looks like a giant sword. What a risk, Zoro said. Swim back to the ship quickly, said the Ninja King. The two swam desperately. The Ninja King quickly took out 2 exploding shurikens from his waist bag and threw them into the sea behind. Boom boom boom. The 2 explosions succeeded in producing a huge sound. On the stern of the Victory Hunter, the orangutan quickly threw 2 iron chains. Hurry up and grab me and pull you up. The staff yelled. Zoro and the King of Ninja each held onto an iron chain tightly. The orangutan pulled suddenly, and he was also born with supernatural power, so he pulled the iron chain back. Zoro and the King of Ninjas finally returned to the stern. The two arrived on the poop deck, panting heavily. It was really close to death just now, and almost died. Zoro and the Ninja King stood up again and looked into the sea behind the stern of the ship. I saw the giant swordfish swimming irregularly and randomly as if it had lost its direction. The sea surface was cut open by the giant sword in a strange trajectory. However, the mechanical apes released from the Victory Hunter kept beating the gongs in the sea, and the other crew members were also beating the iron chains that were put into the sea water. These destructive sound waves completely disrupt the sound waves in the sea. The giant swordfish was also unable to echolocate, and just now Sauron and the King of Ninjas cut off his eyes, which made it impossible for the giant swordfish to capture the position of Victory Hunter. What a good idea, the ape said with emotion. Now at last I can get rid of it, Sauron said. It's really thrilling, the Ninja King also said. The other crew members were also very happy to see this. Giant swordfish are scary after all, and have been chasing them tirelessly for so long. The crew couldn't be happier to be free of the giant swordfish now. Great. Finally able to get away from it. We are finally saved. It all depends on the desperate fighting of the swordsman hero and the ninja hero. No, 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 every one of us is trying our best. Hey, don't stop banging on the chain. Yes, yes, continue to destroy the sound of the sea. Victory. The hunter's mechanical apes continued to beat the gongs, and the crew continued to beat the chains. The surrounding sea is filled with destructive sounds. Nami also continued to command victory. The hunter continued to sail. She also said with relief, "I finally got rid of that terrible guy. It's really uncomfortable to be preyed by a giant swordfish." Just when the people on the Victory Hunter felt that their torment was finally over, the giant swordfish that had lost its echolocation ability suddenly found its way again, and swam towards the stern of the Victory Hunter again at high speed. The expressions of the happy orangutans at the stern of the boat changed immediately. The smiling face of the orangutan quickly became shocked again. He felt a chill down his spine for a while, as if he had seen something he least wanted to see. "How is it possible that we have obviously severely damaged the sound transmission in the surrounding sea?" the orangutan said in disbelief. "How could it come after me again?" Zorro said in shock. "Could it be that there is still a way for it to discover our ship?" the Ninja King said doubtfully. The orangutan looked at the giant swordfish that continued to chase, and said, "In addition to sound wave positioning, the swordfish also relies on its eyes. It cannot use these two methods. The other method is to rely on smell, but that requires the prey to release. It takes a lot of blood to attract the opponent. These three are impossible. How can it still chase us?" The Ninja King said, "Could it be that this giant swordfish feels us through the changes in the flow of sea water?" The orangutan looked at him and said with a complex expression, "Maybe it's really possible." Zorro looked at the giant swordfish that was quickly chasing after him and said, "Just like a swordsman can judge the enemy's attack through the movement of the air when his body moves during a duel. This is a kind of insight everyone can understand, not to mention these guys who are more integrated with nature." The giant swordfish swam rapidly in the sea and rushed towards the Victory Hunter. The giant swordfish is indeed able to continue chasing the Victory Hunter by relying on its own perception of changes in sea water. After all, a giant swordfish, a creature with amazing speed in the ocean, has an extraordinary feeling for the sea like an animal. Even if the hull of the Victory Hunter moves, driving the movement of the surrounding sea water, it can be felt hundreds of meters or even thousands of meters away.